ZANU-PF Parliament arroged as Jacob Mudenda received 5 level driver propose a citizen demand qualification for MP also. Kusangana kwa chaita zvakare pana pa YouTube channel yenyu yeMagaba News patinobata nawo dzinenge dzichiitika munharaunda nemunyika yedu yeZimbabwe. If you are new here, kindly support us by hitting the subscribe button and also turn the notification bell. Today we are talking about the issue irikusumudzwa munharaunda nemunyika yedu yeZimbabwe apo yasumudzwa musi wa 20 August 2026 asina widzi tauya takadzibata zuva ranhasi musi wa 21 August 2026 apo pari kutaurika nhau dzekuziviswa chiitiko kuparliament chiri kuziviswa kunzi vaJacob Mudenda vakarisivha tsamba muparliament ichibva kune the Portfolio Committee on Transport and Infrastructure Development. Vanyora tsamba vachiti mutemo uyu wakufanira kuiswa munyika yeZimbabwe kuti mutyairi wese wedzimotokari ave ane fundo, ave akadzidza, ave ane 5 level passes including English and Maths. Mhuri yeZimbabwe chiitiko ichi chasumudza mutauro wakanyanya munyika yeZimbabwe sezvo pataurika chiitiko ichocho. Vamwewo vakataura vachiti ndizvo here zvinozoita kuti apa murodhi mutapudzike njodzi dziri kuitika nekuti munenge mati paiswa vanhu vakadzidza chete. Vamwewo vakataura vakati isusu hatingati tonangana nemadhiraivha ari kudhiraivha dzimotokari, tiri kuda madhiraivha acho ari kudhiraivha nyika, tichireva mamembers of parliament ndiwo anofanira kuva achibvunzwa maqualifications sezvo ndiwo ari kudhiraivha chinhu chinoita kuti nyika yese, Zimbabwe yese ive nezvinhu zvakanaka. So nhau iyi yasumudza mutauro kuvazhinji sezvo ipropose ichangosvika kuparliament sezvakangoitika pakuchinjwa kwemutemo wakazoiswa cabo 3 uyu. So according to news maererano nenhau dziri kuziviswa, Zimbabwe parliament is considering a proposal that could significantly change the requirement for people seeking professional driver's license. According to the report said by news Zimbabwe.com, Parliament in reviewing a petition proposed that applicants should have at least 5 ordinary level passes, including education in English and Maths, before they can obtain a professional driving license. The proposal is reportedly being referred to the Portfolio Committee on Transport and Infrastructure Development for the further consideration. But as this debate moves forward, an important question is being raised by citizens. Would such a requirement genuinely improve professionalism and road safety, or could it create another barrier for ordinary Zimbabweans trying to earn a living? And there is another question that Parliament itself should be prepared to answer. If the country is going to introduce a minimum educational standard for people entrusted with the driving public transport, heavy vehicles and other professional vehicles, shouldn't the same principles of competency, accountability and transparency also apply to the people entrusted with making Zimbabweans law? This is not necessarily an argument against education. In fact, education can be extremely vulnerable in professional driving. A driver needs to understand road sign, communicate effectively, follow regulation, and make responsible decisions behind the wheel. Maths can also be useful in everyday driving, particularly when driving with distance, fuel compensation and measurements, and other particular calculations. But the key issue is whether passing 5 O-level subject is the best way to measure whether someone is capable of being a safe and professional driver. Road safety depends on many factors. It depends on proper driving training and practical driving examination and knowledge of road regulation, vehicle maintenance, enforcement of traffic law, responsible behavior, and the condition of Zimbabwe roads. A person can severally academic qualification and still be a responsible driver. At the same time, as some who did not manage to obtain 5 O levels passes may still have years of practical driving experience and the potential to become high competent professional driver if properly trained and tested. That is why the proposed deserve carefully public discussion before become policy. There is also the question of economic opportunity. For many Zimbabweans, professional driving is not simply a career choice, it's a way of earning a living in an economy where formal employment opportunities remain limited. If 5 level passes become mandatory, Parliament would need to consider what happened to the experienced drivers who are already working in the industry but not meet the proposed academic threshold. Would they lose their license? Would they forced back into classrooms? Would young people from disadvantaged background be excluded from professional driving altogether? These are the questions that the Parliament Committee will need to examine carefully. And this brings us back to the uncomfortable question being raised by citizens. Before Parliament demands 5 O-levels passes from Zimbabwe professional drivers, let's Parliament lead by example. Citizens have a right to ask for transparency about the standard applied to public officials. If education qualifications are important enough to determine whether somebody is qualified to operate a professional vehicle carrying members of the public, and then Zimbabwe can reasonably ask where lawmakers should also be transparent about their own qualification, experience, and professional competence. This is not about humiliating individuals, members of Parliament. It's about constituency. Parliament makes laws that affect millions of Zimbabwe. Those laws affect employment, education, transport, business, and the everyday livings of ordinary citizens. So when Parliament introduces or considers a professional standard, citizens naturally want to know whether the people making those decisions are also prepared to demonstrate the standards of competency and accountability they expected from others. The principles should be simple. Let Parliament lead by example. If the argument is the higher educational standard will create a professional and improve our public safety, and then Parliament should explain clearly why those standards are necessary, what evidence support them, and how they will affect people who are already working as professional drivers. Most importantly, lawmakers should listen to the people who will always be affected. Drivers Association, transport operators, road safety, expertise, educators, and ordinary citizens should all have an opportunity to contribute to the discussion. Zimbabwe needs safer roads. Nobody should dispute that, but road safety should not become excuse for creating unnecessary barriers to employment. The real question is not simply whether a driver has 5 O-levels passes. The real question is whether that driver has the knowledge, practical skills, discipline, training, and responsibility required to safely carry passengers and operate a vehicle professionally. As Parliament Portfolio Committee on Transport and Industrial Development consider the petition, Zimbabwe will be watching closely. The debate also should be about safety, competency, fairness, and accountability. And if the Parliament believes that minimum qualifications are necessary for professional drivers, then perhaps lawmakers should be willing to face the same question from the public. What standard of competence and transparency should apply to the people making the rules? Zimbabwe deserves professional drivers, but Zimbabwe also deserves a parliament that leads by example. Ndidzo nhau dzotai tikabata pano pa YouTube channel yenyu yeMagaba News patinobata nhau dzinenge dzichiitika. Ndiwo makwesheni ari kuita kuti zvigosimudza mutauro mushure mekunge paiswa petition kuparliament yekuti vatyairi vemapublic transport, vanova vemazupo, vemakombi nevakasiyana-siyana vari kutyaira motikari dzepublic munyika yeZimbabwe vari kunzi vakufanira kunge vane kudzidza kwe5 O-levels. Zvinova zviri zvinhu zvaita kusumudza mutauro, vanhu vachiti ndo panoraramira nemwana wese, ndo panoraramira nevamwe. Mumwe akagona kudhiraivha akatadza chikoro, saka hazvireve kuti munhu iyeye onzi ngaadzokere kuchikoro aite kudzidza zvakare. Vamwe vakati mumwe anogona kudzidza sometimes otadza kunyatsotyaira paroad zviri safe zvinofarirwa neveruzhinji munyika yeZimbabwe. Munoti chine nhau idzi ndidzo news dzatanga takabata pano paYouTube channel yenyu yeMagaba News. Ndokutendai nekutsigira kwamaita.